Good morning, Dave Snyder here. It's 24th morning of July 2014, and I just made this half-hour long video, and my microphone was just off the hook, piece of shit. I mean, it was a good video too. It would have been a great video. But anyways, this is what I need to show you. In the last video, where I showed you where I showed you the South Pole of the Earth. Let me just get these pictures up here. Okay, I showed you, if you watched my last video, I showed you that the South Pole, this reversed image of the South Pole, hits in Asia. Just to recap, okay? I showed you that the North Magnetic Pole is heading to the same exact spot. Just watch the last video. But anyways, this is what I should have did with the last video. This picture of the lunar South Pole, or the South Pole of the Earth, I told you how Schrodinger hits this spot right here. All I could tell you, I was just telling you that, basically you would have had to just believe me, because I mean, I didn't have no proof to show you. I should have did this. I should have just took this picture and put it right over the lunar South Pole, right? Just like that, and then you would have had something to work with. Now check that out. This is where I seen it over 2 years ago in the weather. The weather showed me this Schrodinger crater here. Now look how well it fits Antarctica. And then look at that. See this crater here? I mean, it's right in place. I can see that, and I can also see the whole thing. But then look at this. What's this? This used to be the South Pole on Google Earth. I remember it. I remember seeing it like this. They showed this big white circle for the South Pole. Why would you do that? That's the South Pole. What's this? Huh. Looks an awful lot like that Schrodinger crater, don't it? And it's the exact size. It's the exact same size. What's that all about? You explain that to me. Why would they do that? Because they're trying to point something to you, trying to give you a clue. It's the only reason they would. Because I'm telling you right now, I've seen Schrodinger's print here in the weather perfectly. I mean, I got a video on my channel showing it. I'll try and find a link to it later, but look at how it fits. Antarctica and the lunar South Pole. That's a reversed image of the lunar South Pole. It's flipped over, so there you go. That's that. And you see that there's a reason why they made that like that. For the people that know or something, or just to tease people or something, I don't know. But I just noticed that I never really lined up this like this. I put the Schrodinger crater here about 2 years ago, but I didn't really pay close attention to what Antarctica looked like over that area till today. Okay, I mean, I have done it before, but I don't, getting to the point where I don't remember a lot of things, because I've done so many things with these pictures in the past. But anyways, I also wanted to point out, since we got that out of the way in the last video that I carried on, oh man, I couldn't believe my microphone was just pissing me off every time I heard it. You can hear me breathing in it. I was just screaming. Anyways, the moon. Let's go to the moon. I'm going to try and do the same video I did somewhat anyways. Maybe a little shorter. People are having a hard time with this, because I think that everybody, when they think of the moon, they think it's always been just the way it is today. They look, it's, except for when you watch like a documentary when they say it was being formed or whatever. But different sides of the moon have faced the Earth in the past. It's not always been the way it is. It's not always been as the distance it is. It's been closer to the Earth. It's different sides of the moon have faced the Earth. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. Let's just, so we understand that, because I'm telling you, this is from the Earth. Okay, but let's just take a look at what we see when we look at the moon. We see this. This is one impact. It actually may be more than one impact, but it's basically showing you one impact. This is what one impact with the Earth did to this side of the moon. This right here is South America. You can put this, when I look at the moon like this, I look at this area right here, and here's South America right there. You just have to reverse it. There's South America. Wow, South America is a big continent. You know what I mean? If you measure South America from the top to the bottom, I think it's like 4,000 miles or something like that. So, as far as the moon, the size of the moon, you can think whatever you want, but I'll tell you what, they say this crater is if I measured it on the moon, it's 200 miles in diameter, Schrodinger. But everywhere you see that on the Earth, I just showed you Antarctica. This whole thing is Antarctica. Just this part, just the lunar South Pole is Antarctica, which is almost 3,000 miles, or is 3,000 miles at least. So, Mars-sized planet hit the Earth to create the moon. Or how about this? A Mars-sized planet hit the Earth, and it was the moon. How about that? That sounds a little bit more like it to me, because all these areas are on the Earth. The moon has shaped the entire planet Earth. Either that, or it's all a lie. Now we have to draw the line somewhere. Everything cannot be fake. Okay, this moon image, we can see this side of the moon, so this, more than likely, is pretty accurate to a certain. They are hiding things in here. You see the lines. They are hiding details. You don't have a telescope or a camera to take pictures of the moon, you're kind of screwed. You have to just basically go with this, right? Or maybe you find a little better than this. But this is Google Earth. So they're going to hide everything that they can. And that's what these lines, they have perfect images of the moon, and they could give them to you, but they hide so much in here. Just trust me on that. Okay, so this crater right here is 1/3 the size of the moon. People think that some little insignificant asteroid hit the Yucatan Peninsula and killed everything, the dinosaurs, and it just basically wiped out everything, right? That is not an insignificant impact right at the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. That's what, sure, you found a crater there, but that crater is reaches far beyond that spot, as I showed, the lunar South Pole, over that Central America and stretching into North America and South America. It's huge. It's a huge impact. It wasn't just a little crater, a little thing that hit there. I'm telling you. You can look and you can see it for yourself. You don't have to believe me. You can check it yourself. Okay? I've got videos up to show you how to do it. Okay, now this one here, this is all we can see, but you got to realize that this is the impact, and if this is the most recent, more than likely all this shit that rained down back onto the moon covered a lot of the darker areas that used to look this way. That's my theory, and I'm pretty sure that's right. Because when I turn, and then you got this one here. See, people think they're all like individual crater impacts on the moon. These craters are from like something hit here one day, and then 10,000 years later something hit here. Okay, how is that? When you go like this and you colorize it, how does everything stay in that perfect circle? How come those deeper impacts all are contained in that circle, but outside that circle is nothing deeper than you see? It's this is the blue is the deepest, the darkest blue is the deepest point, right? The lowest elevation. So that's it's contained in a perfect circle. That's one impact. That's not just one by itself. And these are all at the same time. There might be a couple in there that happened afterwards or something, but that's one impact with Earth. A big one too, matter of fact. And it hasn't completely been covered yet, but pretty close. Even though that's the deepest place on Earth, it's not the darkest area of the Earth, as you can see. This is darker, but it's not as deep, because there you only have light blue. So anyways, then you have these areas here where it's concentrated, build up. All of the debris that's raining down is built up in those areas. This probably hasn't impacted anything in a while. Obviously, these would be deeper, but they've been filled in, I believe. That's my theory. Okay. And you got like different terrain. The moon impacting probably different terrains on the Earth. You have like this right here. This hits in the middle of the Pacific. This area here, this crater here. Now I don't know if there was any land or continents in that area when it hit, but it doesn't really show that. It shows this being right almost in the center of the Pacific. Well, just above New Zealand in that area, right? Okay, so that's probably an ocean impact. That's why it's just a small hole, and kind of not much here in this area. But then you have like this one here. What's the story with this one? This is just like a third the size of the moon. Why did all those impacts stay right in that circle, just up to that edge? Why is that? Because that's one impact. Not, it's actually bigger than that. It goes like this, but that's the center of it. That's the center of the, and that's just one thing, not a whole bunch of things hitting individually. It couldn't be. It just couldn't. I mean, logic says that it couldn't be. Common sense would tell you that that's just, the way it is. This one here, it's just a big impact. Now this hit a continent of South America, this area here, or Central Asia. They're the same shape. So and Europe would be down here. I'm just saying. The supercontinent, you can rebuild the supercontinent with this crater, with the lunar South Pole. Like basically, you've caught me at a point in me doing this where I'm kind of burned out on it, and I've gotten to the point where it's getting easier for me to do the easier things, and I'm kind of lazy, so I just show you the easy stuff. But in the past, I've put up videos where I've used this crater to rebuild the supercontinent, because every continent on the planet has a Schrodinger print on it. Every continent. Australia does, Asia does, Africa does, North America does, South America does. So if you put them all together, all of those impacts in each continent of the Schrodinger, and put them all together, you will see that they were created more than likely at the same time. This didn't hit a whole bunch of different places at different times, I don't think. I think it hit one place and left a print on each continent. It might have hit more than once, but it left its print on all the continents more than likely at one time, or it just created a spot on the Earth that all the continents passed over the top of, and then created that spot or something. But every continent has that spot, and you can rebuild the supercontinent with this lunar South Pole, and it varies in different, because things moved. It would hit the Earth and it would move the continents a little each time, so it gets a little confusing after a while, and that's why I basically quit doing it, because it's hard to find one supercontinent, you know what I mean, that is for sure that it was that way at that time. It's moved around, so it gets confusing. So I just stopped. But anyways, that's enough about that. As far as the size, like I said, Schrodinger is 200 miles on the moon, but everywhere you see it on the Earth, as I just showed you, it's in Antarctica, and they're trying to show us too with that picture, the big white spot. That's, where did I just show that at? Bring that back up. Okay, I just showed it to you. Schrodinger, right there. Okay, you can see that Antarctica picture is not that far off from the proper size. I mean, there's Antarctica right there. It's a little smaller than that I have it here, but not much. And if I measure this diameter right here, it's about 1,200 miles. And it's also 1,200 miles in Asia. I showed it to you earlier in the last video. And it's also, it ranges from between 1,000 and 1,200 miles on the Earth every time. It doesn't really go over 1,200, and it doesn't go under 1,000. It came up to be 1,000 over the Rockies. That was a perfect overlay of Schrodinger right there at that time when the floods happened. I'm telling you, we had Schrodinger's print over the Rockies perfectly. I mean, the radar showed it absolutely perfect. If you haven't seen the video, that's one to watch. It had this horn that come off the side, and it lined up perfectly with the radar. And we just happened, during that time, we had record floods, 100-year floods, okay? If there wasn't something to that, I don't know what to fucking think anymore. There was definitely something to that. We had the strongest pattern of the lunar South Pole over the Rockies during the time we had these extreme floods. There was something to that. Guaranteed. We had an earthquake over there when it was over this area the other day. Okay, here's the Schrodinger print here. It's 1,200 miles in diameter here. Okay, and I just showed you that's Schrodinger's print for sure. Another thing is the continents. Okay, the continents. If you look at the continents, they say that these plates are colliding, right? And that's what the African plate colliding with the European plate created the Alps, right? Okay, maybe so. But what do you see right below this area in the Sahara Desert? Do you not see the same shape of Europe over the top of the Sahara right there? I do. I can see that. There's an angle right here, and there's the angle right there. And if I bring Europe right down here, it fits pretty damn good. I mean, it's common sense. It's logical. This is sand. This is earth and rock. And, you know, usually this is what's going to be at the base. If you move the rocks and all that shit off the top, you know, that's what you get sometimes underneath, I guess. Because I'm pretty sure they were on top of each other at one time. Also, like North America, okay? Florida. I pointed out that the Yucatan Peninsula, the Egyptians and the Mayans were neighbors at one time. Here's you got the Yucatan Peninsula, or this area of Mexico. See the V right there? Okay, and you see Africa or Florida right there. Well, if I bring the Yucatan and put it right there, that V right there, they go together. If I do that, Florida ends up right here in the Sahara, in Saudi Arabia. Fits absolutely perfect. There's every detail is in the picture almost. It kind of messed up a little bit. This is Florida right here, okay, and this is Mexico, and that puts the Mayans here and the Egyptians right here, right connected to each other basically, okay. And then you have, if I was to go even further, and I have, now that I have North America over the top of the Sahara as well, and I got the Yucatan or the Mexico lined up here and Florida over here, what happens when I turn the weather on? The weather from Africa that fits Africa perfectly now fits North America perfectly, because they were in the same place at one time. They had to be. The weather matches everything. I've showed that over a lot of times, okay? And then you got another thing, the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau. What's this look like? A lot of people have already seen that, but this is Australia too. Here you go, right there. There's your Himalayas and Tibetan Plateau, and if you look closely in here, you will see the same details you see here. This is all in there. It's all there. The lines all match. This, and then, like I said before, in the weather, one time I was working on, you know, like I always do, and the perfect outline of Australia was right up here in the weather. I seen it. I said, "Holy shit, that looks like the outline of Australia." Brought Australia up there, and it fit absolutely perfect in the weather right there. There's no question. That's what the weather was showing, that Australia must have been here at one time, or the weather up there came from down here and just drifted up here and stayed the exact shape of Australia. But you got this and this, they're created together. Those two places. I mean, you look at this. This is obviously the bottom, because all that mineral-rich, iron-rich, you know, earth right there is obviously the base layer, because that's why it's like that. Under the rock, all the heavy settled to the bottom. So that must have been underneath the Tibetan Plateau and the Himalayas at one time. And then you have all the subduction right here, where all this, you have the deepest place on Earth, and you can see this big round area. You see this big round area. These are all from the moon. I've showed them all line up with the moon, and if you there can only be one truth, okay? I mean, when you see what's there, we can see the moon. We can see the side of the moon. We have to believe something, people. We have to. If this is what the Earth looks like, and you don't believe that the moon's hit the Earth, I hate to tell you, but either someone's really good at fucking with my head, or you're wrong. Or if the moon hasn't hit the Earth, there's still some scientific value to this. Anyways, it's still showing that the weather is shaped by the moon every day, every bit of it. So I'm sure there was more I had in there, but that should cover a lot of it right there. I mean, you can see more than likely the supercontinent was here, where all the subduction and all this shit is. You know, more than likely, but not absolutely. I'm not guaranteeing that. But here you go. Remember the moon, the Imbrium crater, and in that shape down below. This looks like South America right here. So if you were to take South America and put that right there, this area here, and this that comes down in Europe right here, and it fits perfectly. It's the same shape as this here. So the same thing that created this shape on the Earth is the same thing that created this shape on the Earth. And there's only one thing in the neighborhood with the same footprint. When you go to a crime scene, you look for the footprints and you try to find the shoe print, and you make a cast of it. All right. Well, there's only one neighbor in the neighborhood with the shoe print that matches these prints on the Earth, and that's the moon. Whether it impacted it and created it, or you have to realize that because there's a big crater on the moon. Okay. Rocky Mountains. Check it out. Look up Rocky Mountains created by giant sucking action. If there was an inland sea right here and the moon hit right here, right? And there was an inland sea and the moon hit there, you got right in the middle. You got this salt lake for one. And then if it was to pull away, eventually it would pull the mountains up, the Rocky Mountains up. They say that's just one man's theory, and it sounds logical to me. I don't see why it's not logical. It's perfectly logical. Because something definitely hit here. It's round. You see that it's round, and something hit there. So that's it. I don't care if I forgot anything. That's good enough. Just look at the Earth closely. That's all I can say. Look closely. Use just common sense and logic. I can understand magnetism pretty well. It's opposite poles attract, like poles repel. That's pretty simple. Gravity, I can get the very basics of it. I can understand that too. I can understand the simple part of it. But there's more to it. That's all I can say. There's more to the story than they're telling you. Have a great day.